What kind of accessories do you need for your RV? Whether you're just thinking about getting into the RV lifestyle, or maybe you've been around and just want to get caught up on the new goodies, we're here in our candy store today. I'm Mikey B with Beckley's RVs. Come with us as we cover some of those water, sewer, and electric accessories that are a must need. All right, so some of those awesome accessories that you're gonna need, whether you're new to RVing or for all those returning RVers that just wanna get the latest and greatest, you gotta always remember there's a lot of different options. There's good, better, and best. And for everybody's application, there's going to be a different gadget to have based on what you need. So when we go through this, it's going to be very high level, kind of just the nit and gritty kind of accessories that you're going to need. But definitely check in with our parts associates. They have all the good goodies that you're going to need based on whatever that application or that camping style of yours may be. Far as water is concerned, let's dive into that, because we all need some kind of water as we go camping. Whether we're going to grab water out of our holding tank that we take with us, obviously, on our RV, or if you're going to hook up to the campsite's water. Always, always, always utilize a white water hose when you go camping. This is going to be for your fresh water going into the camper. Again, whether you're filling your water tank or you're getting that city water from the campground. The white water hose is a RV marine grade hose that is mildew and mold resistant. In my experience, and those returning RVers, you probably know this as well, you're going to want to get probably, let's say, two 25-foot water hoses. Why? There's been plenty of campgrounds where you may be sharing the water bib with other campsites, and you're going to need a stretch, a good stretch of water hose. So if you grab that 25-foot water hose on your maiden voyage, you may quickly realize that that's not long enough. I always carried, again, two 20-foot water hoses. Didn't always use that second water hose, but in a pinch, that just allowed me to not have to worry and go find the closest Walmart and try to find a water hose. You're going to have different grades of water hoses as well. Again, good, better, and best. So depending on how frequent that you may go camping, or just your level of accessories, definitely shop our parts store and figure out what is going to be best for your fit. You're also going to find a lot of different water filter kits. Again, good, better, best. You're going to find that some are just a basic carbon filter, all the way to some where they're going to be a very close to like an in-house water filter like you perhaps may have at your house. So again, depending on how you're going to use your water, I personally bring bottled water for cooking and drinking. So for me, a carbon filter is ideal just to take some of those basic smells and impurities out as we wash hands or jump in the shower. You can attach these different styles. Some are directly in line with your water hose. Some will hook up at the water bib and feed the camper that way. So again, depending on your situation, what you may need, talk to our parts associates and figure out what is going to be the best fit. The biggest component that I highly recommend, this needs to be in your accessory bag when you go camping. It's a small item, but it can definitely pay off in time. It's a water pressure regulator. What is a water pressure regulator, Mikey B? Well, you've seen those crazy stories where hoses balloon up or bust, that kind of thing. If you're in the line, you're the first campsite in line of like, say 10, 20 different campsites, guess who's getting all the water pressure? Most of our RVs are only capable to take up to, say, 60 PSI. A lot of pressure regulators are set at 40 PSI just to give a little bit of a buffer. But you're going to want to put this at your water source, so that way all that water pressure coming into your camper is already reduced at the optimal PSI for your camper to handle it, because nobody wants a big water busted pipe bill in our service. What you're also going to find is there's going to be a lot of adapters. If you're at a campground with a hose bib, you can perhaps get a T-valve. You have your one line going to your camper, and I love to have a second line and just attach with the garden hose that I have as a spare, just to be able to wash up hands and feet outside of the camper, just to give me that little bit of access. That way I don't have to unhook my water hose to my camper. More importantly, mama's in the shower and I unhook it to wash my feet off. That's not going to be a good scene. All right, beyond the water, sewer. Septic, we call black water, gray water. There are so many different ways to outfit your need here for this. Of course, gray water, just as a reminder, is going to be all the water coming from your shower, your sinks. Black water is going to be your toilet. We'll get into black water a little bit more later on, but what you'll see is a huge array of sewer hoses. There's, again, good, better, and best. What does that mean? That's going to be based on not only the thickness of your sewer hose, in other words, how long is this sucker going to last? I want my stinky slinky to last very long, so I pay extra money for the thicker mill sewer hose. The other part that you'll find, as in the good, better, best with the kits, is going to be the adapters, or the bayonet fittings as we call it. Just to demonstrate, for example, here, this is the bayonet fitting. This connects to your either your black tank or gray tank, your discharge area, and then obviously your hose goes off into the septic of the campground. You'll have different levels of how they connect. So definitely super important, because you have a full black tank, you have a full gray tank Sunday afternoon, you're getting ready to break camp and head home. That's a lot of volume of water, a lot of pressure. You want to make sure your sewer hose is going to be able to handle that, and more importantly, not have that crazy Robin Williams mess in that movie RV where sewer is going everywhere. You're going to have different lengths as well. You're going to have 10 feet. You're going to have 5 feet, but a lot of these kits will have 2 different lengths or 2 separate hoses. Like our water hose, you're going to want to make sure that you have some spare sewer hose. For example, in my kit, I have, I think, a 20-foot and another 15-foot. Again, that way, if the septic hookup at the campground is too far away for one, I can connect it to, because I certainly don't want any of dirty mess when I break camp. You're going to have a lot of campgrounds that are going to require a donut hose fitting, for your hose that goes into their waste area, their PVC pipe. So if it's directly in the ground with a cap, this way your hose will come in here and securely keep that hose. So when it comes time to pull that gray or black valve, you definitely have a secure connection and not allowing that hose to come out. You're gonna, speaking of connectors, you're gonna have a lot of different connectors. Again, based on what your application is. You have a rear kitchen model, you probably already know you have a valve at the back, you have a valve at the front. This is a great way to connect those 2 sewer tanks, or black tank, gray tank, whatever that may be, and connect it into one hose. And guess what? You can probably already do the math. We need 1 hose, 2 hose, and a 3rd hose. So again, make sure you have some spare hoses on hand, just in case you get into that new campground and you don't know what you have to deal with quite yet. There's also going to be connectors that are going to allow something like this to help clean out your discharge area. It's very important with black tank and gray tank valves to stay clean. They're a knife, what we call is a knife valve that opens and closes. If perhaps that valve gets clogged, doesn't allow to close properly, then you're going to have a small leak. Now you might say, Mikey B, well, I don't care if it's leaking out, it's going into my hose, going into the campground septic. That's great, right? No, especially with your black tank, you want water you want to capture that water in the black tank. So when it comes time to do that nasty job, you have all that water, all that pressure to take all the solid waste out. This connection is a great connection to hook up a water hose from the campground and power jet into those knife valves and make sure that you're keeping them clean. All right, so enough talk of all this black tank, right? Well, all the wastewater stuff. What you need to do is make sure your black tank stays very fresh, very clog-free, right? So that's why all of us RVers always have some kind of black tank chemical. The black tank chemical is not only a deodorizer, but it also helps break down all the waste. And when I say waste, it's not just human waste, but also more importantly, toilet paper. Now, the chemical, as you can see, we have a lot of different choices here. Again, talk with our parts associate and figure out what's going to be best. But essentially what you're going to have is you're going to have 3 different forms. You're going to have a liquid form, you're going to have a powder form, and then you're going to have essentially a powder form, but in really easy, small drop-in tablets. I get a little lazy in my older age. I love the tablets because they're just one and done. I drop it into the toilet, run some water, flush it in the tank, and it's done. If you're going RVing a lot, maybe a full-timer, the larger liquid bottles might be more ideal for just overall cost. There is some chemical that has some fragrances to it. As you can see here, we have a couple different, we have a purple, orange, green, and a blue. So if you're into some making your toilet smell a little bit more odor fresh, if you will, you have that choice as well. The most important thing, regardless of what version that you're using with your toilet chemical, please, please, please make sure you're using 1 dose per tank, and you're putting that dose down into the toilet before you start camping. Why? Because that little bit of water, and more importantly, coupled with that toilet chemical, is a reactor. It needs to be there and react on the waste as you use your toilet. So if you're out Saturday afternoon, your black tank is full, you flush it, you're going to go back in and make sure that you do another dose. Another big item to make sure that you're utilizing is RV toilet paper. RV toilet paper is more degradable, if you will. The glues that hold the plies together is meant to break down in that black tank along with the water and your toilet chemical to make sure that you don't have any clogs. So again, when you're ready to pull that knife valve on your black tank, we have all that water and everything broken down and a smooth discharge of all our wastewater without any clogs. More importantly, no headaches and no messes. You'll have a couple different options in toilet paper. RV toilet paper, you're going to have, just like in the grocery store, you're going to have your 1-ply, your 2-ply, and then some. If you're using an RV toilet paper, regardless of what you choose, you're going to be safe with that choice. In a pinch, you run out, you might have to go and grab a 1-ply, but again, make sure that it breaks down very well. Other than that, you do have with your black tank, when you're perhaps not camping, off season, etc., you'll have also toilet chemical deodorizers that can stay in the black tank. And like your fresh water, it's a great way to make sure that your water systems are sanitized, because when you're not using it, guess what, folks? There's still water on board. Now you can go, again, talk with our RV specialist. There's drains that enable you to make sure that all your water, your fresh water, your wastewater is drained out completely. You can always hook up air to it and push it out. But in a pinch, or more importantly, between camping, one trip into the next, make sure you talk with our parts associates to talk about how to make sure that we minimize the smell, and more importantly, make sure that we don't, make sure that we don't have any water issues. So that's all that we have for water and sewer. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to jump over to our last segment, the electric. All right, just as equally as important as having enough water on board if you're going out camping, it's electric. Think about the last storm that came through and just killed the power in your house. My gosh, what does that do? It kills everything. So electric is your best friend alongside with all the water options that you'll need to make sure you got fresh water on board. But anyway, there's a lot of different ways to handle electric. We're going to have, in most campers, we're going to have what we call as a 30 amp wiring or 120 volt. Like our normal appliances at home that plug into an outlet, computer, let's say like your microwave, things like that. 30 amp is going to be on most campers and most sufficient to run the majority of our appliances. Some RVers, or when you get into shopping, you may see, we have some campers that are 50 amp, like the real big fifth wheels and motorhomes that are 240 volts. That is something like your washer and dryer. In other words, you have a lot of electrical components on your RV that needs more power to come in. And how do we handle that? How do we manage that? How do we make sure that we are able to go at and have electric regardless of what campground that we have. Because old state parks, old national parks, guess what? You're probably just going to have a 15 amp plug-in like your outlets on the wall at the house, whereas these campers need 30 or 50. You have a 50 amp camper and you go to a campground that only has 30 amps. How do we manage that? And in reverse, we have a 30 amp camper that only has a 50 amp outlet or a 15 amp outlet. How do we take care of that? And that's what we have, a slew of all these adapters. In my camping accessory kit, my gosh, I think I have probably 5 different adapters. That way I can manage incoming power regardless of what I have at the campsite. Again, if you're on a 30 amp camper, actually wrong one. If you're on a 30 amp or if your camper has 30 amps and you get to a campsite that only has a 15 amp, or again, like our wall outlets in the house, this adapter allows us to plug the camper in and reduce it down to a 15. Keyword, reducing. If we do not have our full 30 amps, guess what? We do not have our full power coming into the camper, which means we're not going to have the ability to turn everything on. Well, Mikey B, what do we do in that situation? Guess what? You're going to have to turn things on and off as needed. So for example, somebody's jumping in the shower and you're trying to utilizing your water heater for hot water. Microwave, not going to work. AC is probably going to have to be postponed for a little bit and turned off. Might have to find another way to chill. Or any other RV appliances inside, probably going to need it turned off. So ideally, you got a 30 amp camper, try to ask for a 30, not try, ask for a 30 amp campsite. But again, in my experience, and many RVers can back me up, there's going to be times that you're going to need this adapter. If you're a 50 amp RVer, same thing, 50 amp down to 30 amp. This way you still have some kind of incoming power, and you'll have to manage, again, just like the last situation, you'll have to manage what's on at the same time. Turn some things off that may not need, like you can postpone making coffee for 5 minutes if mama needs to get in the shower and take a hot shower. But if you have a 50 amp down to a 30, then this, again, the adapter gives you the ability. There's even sometimes, do I need to go from a 50 down to a 15? Absolutely. I have both, and I've been there before. I'll have to couple basically these two together, take my 50 amp from the camper, plug in, attach these two adapters, and then into the 15. Now, like anything in the world, there's always workarounds. So if you're at an campground that has a couple outlets within the post that or the power post that you have at the campsite, perhaps you can Y off and tag team both those outlets in order to get the majority of the power into your camper. There's also other adapters that will allow you to link 2 of these together, but just in one. For example, here we have a 15 or a 50 down to a 15. So perhaps you don't need to maybe keep 2 on hand. You can just spend the money and just keep 1. And as I mentioned, this is kind of like your cheater plug. This is a way to take 2 different power sources at the campground or wherever you're plugging into in order to feed some of that bigger power need that you have in your RV. So for example, we have a 30 and a 15 going to a 50. So again, make sure that you have all these adapters in your tool bag or your RV accessory just in case, because guess what, folks, there's going to be a new campground that you go to that you're unfamiliar with, and this way that you're prepared. The other thing, like the water hose and sewer hose, I highly suggest to make sure that you keep extra on hand, because you have, for example, a 40-foot fifth wheel and the power post is 30 feet away beyond the fifth wheel. That 25, 30-foot cord that comes with your camper isn't going to be enough. So I have actually 2 extra extension cords to power my RV. And the key word, I guess, would say is that the extension cord, it's not your standard extension cord you can get off the shelf at, say, retailer XYZ. You want to make sure that it's a 30 amp and the proper gauge wire. As you can see here, this is a much thicker extension cord than your standard household extension cord. It needs to be able to take that load that your RV is demanding. So if you have a 30 amp camper, you have a 30 amp cord that's coming with your camper, make sure you get a 30 amp extension cord, and likewise with a 50. Because the more that you try to push electric through a smaller cord, it builds up heat, and then you're gonna have an issue. And speaking of an issue, this is exactly what's going to happen when your extension cord gets too much heat. It melts down. It just creates a lot of issues, and more importantly, you're going to have loss of power, just like a storm came through the house and knocked the telephone pole over. This is the last thing I wanted to talk about electric, and this is super important. As you can see, this was a cord coming from an RV. This was attached to the power outlet. Something happened. Was it a surge of power, for example, lightning storm? Was it bad electric? There's a lot of terms with bad electric. You have improper grounding, you have brown power, etc. These surge protectors are a lifesaver. They range anywhere from, say, $100 up to, I think, $500 or $600. Again, good, better, best. Depends on what your situation is. I'm a frequent flyer. I'm in and out of different campgrounds, so I like the ones that just simply plug to the post. You can spend the extra money and get one hardwired into your RV, so you don't have to worry about this extra accessory. You're just using your natural cord from the RV. But the best thing about this surge protector is when we do have a problem, and when I say you will have an issue with bad power at some point in your RV journeys. It's much easier to replace the surge protector for a couple $100 than it is to spend or have your RV spend a couple months in an RV service center and getting a lot of appliances and a lot of wiring redone. Just like your house, if something blows, that microwave blows, the breakers on your panel box blow, anything else, the TV, stuff like that, you have to replace that component. I'd much rather spend a few $100s and do this and replace this if and when it needs to be replaced, as to replacing all your appliances in your RV. So this is a super must-have, because I'm sure just like your flat screen TV in your house, you probably have a $50, $60 surge protector protecting that investment. Why not spend a couple $100s or a few $100s to protect your big RV investment? So again, talk to our parts associates. We have a big array of choices with this. They can figure out how you camp, where you're going to be camping, and the best fit for you. All right, RVers and future RVers, so I hope you got something from out of this. As mentioned, probably thousands times, there's good, better, best to anything, any accessory that you may need. And more importantly, what somebody says that they do may not always apply to you. So again, make sure you talk to Bree, our parts associate, and to make sure that you are getting the best fit for your camping lifestyle. Make sure you visit our parts store here, and we will gladly help you go through that list of must-haves and check off everything, so that way your camping experiences glow flawlessly. I'm Mikey B with Beckley's RVs. We'll see you at the campsites.